Do you believe I should be put to death?
I believe that the punishment for apostasy in a correct Islamic state is death. I believe that that's the correct... Let me finish. Let me just respond, sir. I believe that that is the correct punishment which has been revealed by God both in the Quran and the Bible. And for Robert to turn around let me finish.
I asked you, do you believe I should be killed today?
And I answered you, sir.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're analyzing a fascinating religious debate that explores different theological perspectives on apostasy across traditions. A Muslim scholar discusses his views on an American panel alongside an ex-Muslim, and the conversation reveals how various religious traditions have developed different approaches to questions of religious conversion and freedom. This was filmed in the United States and features speakers from multiple faith backgrounds. We'll hear from Robert Spencer and a Jewish commentator who explain historical developments in their traditions, followed by an exchange about contemporary interpretations of religious law. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from, and let's dive into this important discussion about comparative religion and theological diversity. Let's get into it.
Can I comment?
Yeah, go ahead,
please.
Yeah, so I would ask Robert a very simple question that I think gets at what the real issue actually is. Do you believe that it's inherently immoral for an apostate to be put to death?
Do I believe that it's inherently immoral for an apostate to be put to death?
Is it inherently immoral?
Well, I know this is some kind of trap, but in any case, I don't
I'm just
see any
looking
reason.
for honesty on your part, that's all.
You can always have honesty on my part. Everything I tell you is the truth.
Okay, so go
and
ahead.
the fact is that, I don't know. I tell you the truth, I haven't thought about it.
Okay,
but,
you haven't thought about it. Well, you're writing all of these books on Islam talking about
criticizing
apostasy,
Islam?
Right.
and you don't even know if this is inherently immoral. That's quite shocking, Robert.
I would say that I don't think that it's moral to put the apostate to death.
So it's immoral.
As it comes to my books about Islam, I'm just reporting on what Islamic clerics and the Islamic tradition teaches about passages like when Muhammad says, if somebody changes his religion, kill him. So if you look, for example, in chapter 4, verse 89 of the Quran, in the critical Quran, where it says, if they turn renegade, then come and kill them wherever you find them, then I give Islamic authorities who actually say that this should be done. And that is something people need to know. Now, whether you're talking about in the ideal society, you have apostates put to death, I don't think so, because I believe in the freedom of conscience and the idea that of the dignity of the human person, which is a Christian concept that's not in Islam. You have in Islam, the unbelievers are the most vile of created beings, according to chapter 98, verse 6.
One issue at a time.
So on. No, this is all.
Let's talk about this issue.
I understand, but this is all the same issue. Whereas in Christianity, all people are equal in dignity as made in the image of God. And so in that sense, I would say, no, I don't think it is.
So is it inherently immoral, yes or no?
Can I answer that?
It is.
It is.
So when Deuteronomy, since you like to quote the Quran, when the Bible says this in Deuteronomy 13:6, if your brother, the son of your mother, your son of your daughter, the wife of your bosom, or your friend, who as your own soul secretly entices you, saying, quote, let us go and serve other gods, which you have not known, neither you nor your fathers, of the gods of the people which are all around you, near to you or far from you, from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth, you shall not consent to him or listen to him, nor shall your eye pity him, nor shall you spare him or conceal him, but you shall surely kill him. Your hand shall be first against him to put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people. And you shall stone him with stones until he dies, because he sought to entice you away from the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. So all Israel shall hear and fear, and not again do such wickedness as this among you. So let me finish. Let me comment on the passage. So when your loving God, Jesus Christ, who you believe is God, who revealed the Old Testament and revealed this as a law for the people, and you said that it's inherently immoral for the punishment of apostasy to be death, then you are charging your own God and supposedly loving Jesus with immorality.
Not at all.
If you don't see that contradiction and hypocrisy,
it's not in the least.
Can't really do much for you.
This opening exchange is really interesting from a comparative religion perspective because it sets up fundamentally different approaches to interpreting sacred texts. Daniel asks Robert whether he considers certain traditional religious penalties to be morally problematic. Now, what's fascinating here is that this isn't just about Islam or Christianity. It's about how different faith traditions interpret their foundational texts over time. Robert responds by affirming that he believes religious freedom and freedom of conscience should take priority, and he references the concept of human dignity as it developed within Christian theological tradition. This is an important historical point because the idea of inherent human dignity, regardless of belief, became central to Western thought and eventually influenced international human rights frameworks. Daniel then presents passages from Deuteronomy that describe severe penalties in biblical law. This is a standard comparative approach, showing that ancient texts across traditions contain similar content. And he's absolutely correct that these passages exist. The question that emerges isn't about what's written in ancient texts, but rather how contemporary religious communities interpret and apply those texts. This is where we see significant divergence between traditions. Some religious communities went through extensive periods of reinterpretation and reform, developing frameworks that prioritize individual conscience and religious liberty. Others maintained more traditional interpretations of classical legal codes. Neither approach is monolithic within any tradition, but the dominant trends differ significantly. Understanding these different trajectories of interpretation helps explain why contemporary religious communities take very different positions on questions like apostasy, blasphemy, and religious freedom.
Or hypocritical, because that is God actually ordering something directly.
Was God wrong for that?
Now, the question here is whether the Muslims, when they put people to death for apostasy today, are likewise authorized by God in some direct manner. Now, obviously,
that's what matters.
Yes, the question is...
And it's not inherently immoral. It just matters what is the correct religion and whether or not God is actually revealing it.
Yeah, if you study the Old Testament, you will actually find that there's a great deal of discussion about passages like that and whether they are actually commands by God, whether they were understood by the faithful, interpretations by the faithful. The evolving understanding in the Old Testament and the New, and in Jewish and Christian tradition, is something that unfortunately is absent in Islam, such that in Jewish and Christian tradition you have the understanding of the dignity of the human person that ultimately made people realize that putting people to death for apostasy was not something that was acceptable. Yeah. But the idea that it was a localized command at some point or understood to be such, that is not the same thing as people nowadays thinking they are the executors of the wrath of Allah because Muhammad says, if anybody changes his religion, kill him, and the Quran says that you can soothe your heart by fighting the unbelievers and so on.
So Robert,
can we hear from Brother Rasheed for one? Brother Rasheed, go for it. What's on your mind?
Because this concerns me. Do you believe I should be put to death?
I believe that the punishment for apostasy in a correct Islamic state is death. I believe that that's the correct... Let me finish. Let me just respond, sir. I believe that that is the correct punishment which has been revealed by God both in the Quran and the Bible. And for Robert to turn around let me finish.
I asked you, do you believe I should be killed today?
And I answered you, sir.
Yes or no?
I answered you.
Yes or no?
I answered you.
I think he said yes.
You want me to answer?
I said.
Yeah, you answered me.
In a proper Islamic jurisprudence, jurisdiction, an Islamic nation, all of the laws of Islam and the Sharia as revealed by God should be applied.
So if we were in that kind of state, would you do it?
Including
I'm not the one that executes
with proper due process, with a proper court hearing, just like any nation of laws. The laws of the Sharia should be applied, including the death penalty for not only apostates, but also blasphemers.
You didn't answer me, yes or no?
We did answer
Yes,
you.
we did answer.
Yeah, so I should be killed.
We did answer.
I deserve to be killed because I left Islam and became a Christian.
According to Islamic law, an apostate like you would be killed, yes.
Okay, thank you.
This is where we get a really detailed explanation of how interpretive traditions work, and it's fascinating from a religious studies perspective. The Jewish speaker explains that Jewish tradition includes both written law and oral law, and that the oral tradition created extensive interpretive frameworks around the written text. He describes how these frameworks established such rigorous requirements that implementing certain penalties became extraordinarily rare in practice. He mentions that rabbinical courts that carried out such sentences, even infrequently, were viewed as concerning by the broader community. This illustrates how interpretive tradition can significantly shape how scriptural commands are understood and applied. It's a great example of how religions evolve internal mechanisms for adapting ancient laws to changing contexts. Christianity developed along different lines, with theological frameworks that reinterpreted the Hebrew Bible's legal codes through the lens of New Testament teachings. Different Christian traditions have debated exactly how this works, but the general trend has been towards separating ancient Israelite legal codes from contemporary Christian practice. Now, when we look at Islamic jurisprudence, we see scholars across various schools who maintain that classical legal rulings retain ongoing validity. Daniel represents this perspective when he's asked about the traditional position on apostasy in Islamic law. He clearly articulates that according to classical Islamic jurisprudence, traditional penalties would apply in a properly constituted Islamic state. This isn't a fringe position. It reflects mainstream views in several major schools of Islamic legal thought. The exchange shows us a direct comparison between traditions that have largely moved away from implementing ancient religious penalties versus perspectives that maintain these positions as valid interpretations of divine law.
And according to the Bible
let me. This is a fallacy.
And a blasphemer.
This is a fallacy.
Robert,
too cocky. Like you want to say you have it too. It's a fallacy.
No.
Let us discuss this because
why is it a fallacy?
It's a fallacy. Let me finish.
Please condemn Jesus.
Yeah.
Please.
Oh, you think you
Condemn
should?
Jesus.
Robert already
condemned him. So
You're lying.
Let me
Let's
finish.
be on
Let me
record
finish.
saying you're lying
That's
about that.
Let me finish.
That's what happened.
Let's-
You said
let's-
eventually we realized you
You're lying.
Just let me finish. You
Let's hear
converted.
Brother
you-
Rasheed, and then I'll come to you. Go for
You
it.
converted from Christianity to Islam. Your life is not under threat here in the U.S. I converted from Islam to Christianity. My life is under death. That's the difference between Christianity and Islam.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Yes.
I got a question for you guys. I'm a data guy. I'm a finance guy. How many Christians have died going from being Christian to Muslim? How many Muslims have actually been killed or died going from being a Muslim to a Christian?
There's no data on that because these kinds of things are not recorded. They're not considered crime.
There should be,
in
though, right? I
Islam.
mean, shouldn't there even if there's some stories to be able to say,
Yes.
you know, XYZ individual.
I have stories. I have one in Mauritania who was condemned to be executed. We just got him out to Paris because we negotiated with the government there. I have people right now in Libya. They are under death penalty in Libya. I have people who got killed in Jordan, for example, because I do my show. People contact me. I have people who got killed in Jordan. Their parents killed them because they became Christians from a Muslim background. We have people in different places in the world, in the Muslim community, they kill them, and if they get to flee, that's the best outcome.
I got a question. While I'm studying this, there's also Daniel said something very interesting where the guidelines of Quran is based on the jurisdiction of the government, meaning where you live, the religion is follow whatever the laws are of that nation. Meaning, you can correct me. I'm just giving you what I've looked into. Does this mean these rules apply no matter where you live? Is that across the board, or is it's more stricter in certain Muslim nations than other Christian nations?
Islam is to be applied forever on every place since the time of Muhammad until today. So Muslims are just seeking to be a majority one day, and if Muslims are majority today, these two brothers will witness my killing in front of people, and they will be happy cheering the crowds that I was killed. So Islam is to be.
If U.S. became majority Muslim today, you would be killed.
I will be killed. Sharia is to be applied everywhere, every time, and that's the biggest difference with Christianity, because Jesus came and he stopped the Old Testament. He stopped he didn't stone the lady who committed adultery. He said in the law, tooth for tooth, and he said, no, you turn the other cheek. Jesus stopped the Old Testament. They don't have a New Testament in Islam. They have worse than the Old Testament. They have something that Muhammad never corrected. So today we have to do jihad. Today we have to kill the apostate. Today we have to kill the person who doesn't pray, even a Muslim. If he stops praying, he should be killed. If he has no excuse, he should be killed.
The final section brings this theological discussion into contemporary context through personal testimony. Rasheed, speaking from his experience as someone who converted from Islam to Christianity, describes the different realities faced by people converting in different directions. He notes that someone converting to Islam in Western countries faces no legal or social penalties, while those leaving Islam may face significant challenges in certain regions and communities. This asymmetry reflects the different ways various cultures and legal systems treat religious conversion. He mentions his work with individuals in countries where religious conversion creates serious legal and social complications. These are documented realities in several nations where religious law influences state law. International human rights organizations regularly report on these situations. Rasheed then addresses the question of whether these traditional interpretations are understood as culturally specific or universally applicable. According to classical Islamic jurisprudence, as articulated by many scholars, these laws are considered part of divine revelation, meant for all times and places. This represents a significant theological difference from traditions that view certain ancient laws as historically contextual. When Rasheed discusses what implementation of comprehensive religious law would mean, he's describing the classical Islamic legal framework as traditionally understood. Different Muslim scholars and communities have varying views on how and whether such systems should be implemented in modern contexts. But the traditional legal positions remain influential in Islamic jurisprudence. This conversation highlights why discussions about religious freedom, secular governance, and the relationship between religious law and civil law remain important in contemporary society. Different religious traditions have developed different approaches to these questions, and understanding these differences helps inform discussions about pluralism, integration, and the protection of individual rights in diverse societies. So what do you guys think of this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.